that your feelings of grieving singleness matters and that the Lord cares so deeply about you. I know this is really like a taboo topic because a lot of people like to argue that you're supposed to be so content, you're not supposed to have any discontentment, and then the Lord's just going to come out of nowhere and bless you with a spouse, and that's very, very wrong. The Lord will not have you to be fully content in something that you aren't called to. So today we're going to read Judges chapter 11, and we're going to start at verse 29, and I'm going to be reading out of the Message Bible so you can really get like the conversation sense of what's really going on. So let me get to it. So it says, God's spirit came upon Jephthah, and he came across Gilead and Manasseh and went through Mesphi and Gilead, and from there approached the Ammonites. And Jephthah made a vow before God, if you give me a clear victory over the Ammonites, then I'll give God whatever comes out of my house to meet me, when in return one piece from among the Ammonites I'll offer up in a sacrificial burnt offering. So Jephthah is trying to defeat the Ammonites, and he goes to the Lord and says, if you give me this victory against the Ammonites, I'll give you the first thing that's in my house to sacrifice. So let's go on. Then Jephthah was off to fight the Ammonites, and God gave them to him, and he beat them soundly all the way from Aurora to the area of Menaneth, as far as Abel, Carium, and 20 cities, a masquerade, Ammonites brought to their knees by the people of Jerusalem. So the Lord gave Jephthah his victory, and he was able to defeat the Ammonites. So let's go down to verse 34. Jephthah came home to Mizpah, and his daughter ran from the house to welcome him home, dancing into the tambourine. She was his only child, and he had no son or daughter except her. And he ripped his clothes, saying, "Oh, dearest daughter, I'm dirt. I'm despicable. My heart is torn to shreds, and I made a vow to God, and I can't take it back." So let's just back up here. Jephthah goes into the house, and he defeats his victory, and he tells the Lord, I'll give you the first thing I see as a burnt offering, the sacrifice. But when he goes to the house, the first thing he sees is his daughter. That's the first thing that he sees. So he says, I am dirt and I'm despicable, and his heart is to shreds. And in verse 36, his daughter replies, she said, dear father, if you made a vow to God, do to me what you have vowed. And God did his part and saved you from your enemies. So the daughter is saying, you know what? Do what you had promised the Lord. Do whatever you were supposed to do, do it. So she comes into agreement with the vow he made for the Lord. His next verse. And then she said to her father, but let this one thing be done for me. Give me 2 months to wander through the hills and lament my virginity, since I will never marry, and my dear friends. So her father lets her go away for 2 months and lament the fact that she would never marry, she would never have a family, and she would never lose her virginity. So we're getting somewhere. So it says, oh, yes, he said. He sent her off for 2 months, and she and her dear girlfriends went among the hills, lamenting that she would never marry. And at the end of the 2 months, she came back to her father, and he fulfilled the vow with her, and that he never made. She had never slept with a man, and it became a custom in Israelite culture. For 4 days every year, the young women of Israel went out to mourn the daughter of Jephthah to the Gilead. So let's just backtrack here. Jephthah makes a prayer to God, asking him to defeat the Ammonites. And because he was able to successfully defeat the Ammonites that like the Lord wanted him to, he said, Lord, I'll sacrifice the first thing that comes out of my house. And the first thing that came out of his house was his daughter. So he sacrificed his daughter in the way of she would never get married, she would never have a child, she would never lose her virginity, she would never, all those things. And she went away for 2 months to lament the fact that she would never have all those things. And in Israelite culture, they go up to mourn Jephthah's daughter every year. So the correlation that I'm trying to make here is singleness grief is in the Bible. Jephthah's daughter mourned for 2 months. So when you're in that feeling of grief, like I'm single and I don't like what's going on, you're mourning Jephthah's daughter. So don't ever let anyone sit here and tell you that your feelings are idolatry. Your feelings are discontentment don't matter, because Jeffrey's daughter mourned for 2 months. So I come here as encouragement to tell you that your feelings is valid, because just like the Lord met Jeffrey's daughter in her lamenting, he will do the same thing with you. So there's some church people that like to come and say, oh, your feelings are idolatry. Your feelings don't matter. And this and this and that. But the Lord comforted Jeffrey's daughter in the fact that she wasn't going to have those things. So if the Lord did not call you to live a life of singleness, you will not be content in where you are. But if he's called you to live a life of singleness and you aren't content, the Lord will give you contentment in knowing that this is your lifestyle. And if it's meant for you not to be single, there's a scripture in Isaiah that says, look in scroll of the Lord and read. None of these will be missing. No one will lack her mate. And for it is his mouth that has given the order, and his spirit will gather them together. Meaning, if you are meant to be married, you will not lack your mate. So I make this video to encourage you, to tell you that your feelings of grieving singleness matters, and that the Lord cares so deeply about you. So don't ever let anyone tell you that your feelings are not valid, because Jeffrey's daughter went through the same thing that you're going through. So I pray that the Lord continues to shine his face upon you, and know that this season may not be easy, but singleness, if you are truly called to marriage, singleness has a deadline. God bless.